Wade, Dalton Wade Real Estate Group, and today we have Julio, and Talia's holding the phone. We're going to chat about expired and withdrawn listings and how those are sort of the lifeblood of every agent, especially new agents or agents maybe a little bit in the business for a while, but actually prospecting those folks. It is really the number one thing you have to do. But unfortunately, it's the thing agents hate to do. So there's a dichotomy there. So withdrawn listings. Let's talk a little bit about withdrawn listings. You'll see them on the MLS. They fall into two categories. They're called unconditional and conditional. So unconditional means that when it was withdrawn, the previous broker gave up kind of all rights to the listing. When it's withdrawn conditionally, that means that broker still could collect a commission if the house sold. So prospecting those, you can still do it, but you do have to, chat with that potential seller about, when that listing is actually. So they go from withdrawn, and then when the contract period ends, they flip to expired. So you could have an issue if you listed a withdrawn with the conditional note attached to it, and then you sold it, that other broker would be due some commission. So you want to just make sure you understand all that. So and then why didn't that listing and then expired, obviously the contract ended and it flipped from active to expired without ever having sold. So why the listings why do they expire and why do they get withdrawn? And so here are the main reasons. So sometimes it is due to the price. The house could have been overpriced, and that affected it. That's a difficult one to fix unless the seller is willing to sort of reduce the list price if you pick up that listing. But also oftentimes it can be the other agent did a poor job. So basically, what did they do a poor job with? So a listing is an internet marketing piece. It's a piece of marketing material that's out on the internet, right? Everybody searches on the internet. So visually, how that listing looked on the internet was weak. And what was weak about it? The photos. We've all seen them. Photos taken with the person's camera phone, photos taken at night. Photos with varying exposures, so the actual photography looked weak, and then how those photos were arranged. The number one thing that sells homes are kitchens. Buyers love good kitchens, right? So if you got a nice kitchen, you want to show that kitchen. So so they had bad photos, and then the kitchen, which was nice, didn't appear to photo 10, and by that time that potential buyer had moved on to the next listing to look at. So you got to catch that buyer's attention quickly so that they want to go see, make an appointment or come to an open house. So photography is key. The write-up, bad grammar, bad English, didn't really convey, the features of the home quickly. Again, think of it like it's an advertisement. You have limited time to catch that buyer's interest, right? So when they started to read the remarks, boring, and they went on to the next listing. The agent didn't do any, the agent's brokerage doesn't have like the data exchange set up properly on the MLS, so it didn't make it out to all the sites. Or the agent doesn't have a profile on Zillow or Realtor.com, the top sites. And instead of that agent being contacted, they contacted another agent who showed the property but then steered the person away, wanted to sell them something else. So the internet marketing, the distribution of the listing wasn't as strong as it could have been. The agent didn't do open houses or didn't do many open houses. Buyers, if they don't have an agent, the only way for them to get into a property is either to call the listing agent or go to open houses, right? So only 10% of homes sell at an open house, meaning that the buyer came to an open house. We at Dalton Wade have had a higher, it's close to 20% of the people coming to our open house end up being the person who purchases the house. So that agent didn't do enough open houses, and therefore the buyers just never showed up. They didn't do anything with social media. Facebook is a powerful tool, can reach a lot of potential buyers. They don't know how to use social media. So those are the 5 main reasons why a listing that was priced correctly might not sell. Just to recap: photography, poor remarks, not the proper internet distribution of the listing, lack of open houses, and then lack of social media around the listing. So okay, so now let's talk about your pitch. You're going to call that potential expired or withdrawn unconditionally listing, and then what are you going to tell them? Okay, well, what you're going to tell them is that, so before you call them, you're going to look at the listing, right? And you're going to start to pick it apart. And you're going to tell him that why his listing didn't sell was because of potentially the 5 things that I just mentioned: the photography, the write-up, the internet distribution, the open houses, and the social media. And you're going to fix all those things for them to give them a better shot at getting the house sold. So it didn't sell, not because of the price, and that's certainly possible, but because of what the agent did or didn't do. You're going to fix that for them straight away, right? That's your message, that's your pitch. You got to analyze that list. Now, you're not going to know how many open houses the agent did, but when you're in that conversation with that seller, you're going to ask. And if they tell you, well, they didn't do them, there's a lot of lazy listing agents. We all run into them, right? And they basically they don't want to do it. They don't care. They just hope it sells, whatever. You're going to fix those problems. So that's the main, so you got to convince them on that call quickly that you are going to fix the problem, right? So if you convince them that you're going to fix the problem, the next thing is, when can we meet? When can we have that appointment? Now, sometimes, going right out, a lot of times sellers are tired, right? They've selling your house, it takes effort. You got to keep it clean. You got to keep it neat. You got kids. They're messing it up all. You got to get the kids out. So sometimes they want to take a break, right? They just want some time off, from having to show the house. So they may say, hey, call me in a month, and that's fine. Call them in 3 weeks. Timing is everything. Because they're not probably going to remember you or call you back, but all of a sudden, like, they're going to want to sell, and if you contact them and they remember you, you've got a better shot of actually getting the listing. So a couple other things to remember. One, when a listing goes expired or it goes withdrawn, that person is bombarded with phone calls from agents. And again, you want to test these things out. You want to test your messaging out. You want to see what resonates with people. Maybe a strategy might be, you wait 2 weeks. You let kind of things calm down. So you're calling expired listings, that expired 2 weeks or more ago. You're not calling them right away, because everybody's calling them right away. So sometimes, as I said, they want to take a break. You might call them right away. It's fine too. But, you want to think, okay, what's my best shot of having success? Again, we talked a little bit about, they may tell you not now. I can remember this was a FSBO as opposed to an expired or withdrawn listing, but I called the guy 8 times. It took me like 8 calls before he actually said, come over and I'm going to give you the listing. Because they're not ready, right? You got to get them when they're actually ready to sort of say, okay, I want to put it back out there on the market. Because if they want to take a month off and you call them now, they're not ready to list. So you got to kind of figure out that optimum strategy. So again, and then the second call, right, it's not a cold call anymore. You already have talked to them, and it'll show that seller that you are good at follow-up, right? People like that, right? Oh, he's following back up with me. He must be a good agent. I think I'll hire him. Log them into your CRM. Be organized. Those calls. And you may call them a couple times if the first time you don't get them. You have your to-dos, your schedule, when you're going to follow up with them, again. And then, that's kind of how it works. So you want to, figure out when you're going to call them. You might not get them on the first time. That's all fine. And then you want to follow back up when they tell you to. And then in terms of some additional resources, there's plenty of videos on YouTube. Type in expired listings, real estate agent, 100 videos pop up of agents telling you what they do and how they've been so successful, calling expired and withdrawn listings. And you might watch a couple, get something out of it. It might help you with your pitch, your script. And then there's the Red X. The Red X, that's the Red X, is a service. It's a subscription service where it gives you the phone numbers. So, finding the phone numbers of these people can be, very, very time consuming. They provide you the phone numbers for, I think it's $60 a month. They're not just providing you the numbers, they're providing everybody. So there's nothing proprietary. They just have the data, hopefully makes it easier. And then the other one is called Espresso Agent. It's a little bit more expensive. I've heard a little bit better things about it. That's espresso, like the coffee. And again, it's the same thing and then some of them have power dialers. There's some technology, again, to sort of help you be, as efficient as possible. Because again, the thing to remember, what is considered, good results. Okay, so if you can get one listing appointment out of 100 calls, you've done well. Remember, the thing about selling real estate is that the commissions can be large, right? You can, you sell a $300,000 house at 3%, it's $9,000 as the listing agent. That's a lot of, you're not going to get something like that in 2 hours. We don't make $4,500 an hour like we'd like to, but that's just not reality. So, 10 calls a day. If you do, there's 20 business days in a month. If you do that, you've called 200 people. And again, you might have picked up a couple listings, and then you're off and running in terms of your business. A little harder today because more listings sell than a few years back, so there aren't as many expired and there aren't as many withdrawn, but they're still out there. So, any questions, Julio? Talia?
Nope.
Have you called anybody, Talia, in your career as a real estate agent?
Not yet.
Not yet. That's why she's here today, right?
Yes.
It's again, it's most people are very cool about it. They're happy to hear from you. You might give them some ideas in terms of how to get their house sold. But unfortunately, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's the number one most productive thing to do. But it's the number one thing that agents don't like to do because it does take work. So when Phil used to do some calling, he has to stand up. He can't sit down, right? He's got to just get all jacked up and start right, because you got to bring that energy to it. And that's everybody has their own style, but 10 calls you can do roughly in an hour and a half. And if you get one or two good calls out of it, awesome. So, any questions in Facebook land? All right, we're going to wrap it. And, we are real estate agents, not professional video people. So, hope you enjoyed this, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much.